I've played 2 games now on the One Shot Group, and from this vast wealth of experience, I'd like to now share with you my opinions on what you need to have a successful game on the One Shot Group. If you're playing a one shot, especially, or the first game in a campaign. Now, you need to come to the game with the equipment, the knowledge you need. That is, basically, it's a role-playing game. You need a role. You need a character. So, have made your character, have completed your character by the time you play the game, and preferably submit it to the GM too. You should have your stats, you should have your equipment, and you should have your spells, and you should know what these are, what these do. So when the GM asks you to do something, you're ready, you know the rules, and you can apply them. But saying that, the one-shot group also allows you to play games that you don't know, and it's a great. You don't need to know the rules to come to these games. Just send a message to the GM saying you'd like to play, but you're a newbie, and you can describe the character you'd like to play, or they can just send you a character sheet. I did this last week. I played Fantasy Age for the first time. I'd only just heard of the game. So I asked the GM, Heath Wanamaker, if he could send me a character sheet. He sent me a dwarven fighter who I didn't know the mechanics, but from the character sheet I could see he was good at combat and he was good at drinking, and he'd had a merchant background. So from this information I came up with Seth Brassmantle of the Brassmantle Breweries, who was on a quest to find missing recipes of the greatest beers in history. Not a very deep character, but you don't need to go very deep in one shot. There's not much opportunity. So that's one thing you need to bring to a one-shot game: the character and the knowledge you need to play that character. The second thing you need to think about is your attitude. You need to come ready to enjoy the game. Make sure you are focused on the game and not doing 2 things at the same time. It's really irritating if somebody else is only paying half attention to the game and you need to repeat things or you miss things. Fortunately, in the 2 games I played on the one-shot group, that hasn't happened, but it has happened on Roll20, and it's irritating. In addition to your attitude, your focus on the game, think well, be aware when you come to the game that it's a group game. Unless you're in one of those rare games which is 1 player and 1 GM, you'll be playing with a group of players, and you must be ready to work in a group and enjoy working in a group. The division of time will never be perfectly even. There'll be some players who dominate and some players who don't, but try to make sure your moment will come, and be ready for that moment. In each game there's usually a moment where you have to introduce your character. Be ready to describe them. That's quite easy. Start off with the basics like what race, sex and general size, and then move on to 1 or 2 distinctive physical characteristics. Maybe it's physical like dreadlocks or a scar or fingers like claws. Or maybe it's something they carry, they wear. It may be distinctive armor. It may be a massive helmet. It may be a flamboyant cloak. It may be even the fact that there isn't anything particularly distinctive, and this guy might have been there for 10 minutes, for an hour, for half a day, watching you in the shadows. Just a cloak and some hands appearing on the table. Long, slender hands playing with dice, and a slight smile visible under the shadows of his hood. However you do it, create an impression with your description. But then, if you're going to work in a party, you'll have to talk to them. It's necessary to talk. So you have to think before you come to this session on how you will introduce your character to the other players. Obviously, you can improvise around this. It's never going to be exactly as you imagine, and you'll just have to play with what the other people are doing. But do think of how your character will introduce himself to strangers. For some people it's an easy thing to do. For some people it's a lot more difficult and shy, and they often find security in playing a stereotype, playing a role when they're introducing themselves at first. Or maybe For example, I have a half-orc warrior who is very physically intimidating, but because he's like that, he likes to laugh off his intimidating effect, or actually just approach people with an honest, I'm not dangerous, don't worry about me kind of approach. Think about how you will first interact with any people your character will first interact. Another thing to think about is, as the game goes on, some players will have more GM time, as it were, than others, and they'll be playing and you'll be just sitting in the background. Don't worry about that. That's just a natural way of things happening. Try to enjoy their time, and take the opportunity when your moment comes to enjoy yourself as well. But part of the enjoyment of the game is enjoying other characters, having their moments, and help them by throwing them things. When your moment comes, throw comments at them, or set up little competitions between you and the other guys. Make it a team experience. Don't just try to dominate the experience yourself, but interact. Basically interact with the other people you're playing with. It's a recipe for a much more enjoyable team experience, and that's what you're here for. My name's Caius. I love role-playing games, and I hope this video helps you to enjoy role-playing games more, and I hope to see you in one. Thanks.